to conduct this session on empathy and role in delivering high quality of care from the nurse's perspective. So the content you may see in the slides are definition, why empathy matters, importance of empathy in nursing and types of, and there are some examples I have put it here. And what are the barriers or factors which are influencing to practice empathy in nursing, and how does empathy benefit the patients and nurses? So as you can see the definition, empathy is basically to put yourself into others' shoes and feeling their, perspective, their feelings, and try and help them. So empathy basically is the ability to enter into the life of other person, to accurately perceive his or her current feeling and their meanings, not just feeling, but also to feel about the meanings. It understands the patient world from his or her internal frame of reference rather than from the nurse's so external frame of reference. So here the word empathy comes, I have defined. So I have a question here from the audience. So can I know the audience, they are all nurses here who are attending this? Is it?
It's a mixed
Yes,
kind
yes.
of audience,
Yes.
mostly nurses.
All right. So I would like to ask the question here, from the slide, as you can see the slide, that who would like to define me that how easy to get into empathy mode with all the above criteria. So anyone, you can just unmute yourself and speak. Because I would be happy if people will participate and interact, because it shouldn't be a lecture giving. So anyone? Yeah, Poonam, please. You can unmute yourself and say, how easy for nurses being a nurse to practice empathy in your current setting? Anyone?
You can raise your hands and we'll allow you to talk. So if anyone wants to...
You can, somebody has raised the hand, Poonam Shivam. Poonam, you can speak.
I think there is some problem with
some technical problem?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there anyone else who would like to say?
Yes, I think there is Rekha Anil Kumar who wants to say something. Anyone can say.
Yeah, Rekha.
Feel free, because here is a platform where we can all discuss and share our experiences. Yes, Poonam Shiv Kumar. Please speak, unmute yourself and say. What are the practical difficulties you face and how do you really practice empathy?
Dr. Poonam is the head of the Department of Obstetrics, ma'am, at Sevagram Medical College. I think there is some connection issue.
All right. So anyone else would like to share their experience, that what are the practical difficulties you face, of practicing empathy in palliative care? Oh, sorry, in nursing practice. Anyone else? Actually, how many people have joined so far?
And we have total 42 people. So I would just like to set the pace by the time the other people come. And we believe that empathy is a core human value. At the same time, practicing empathy in busy public sector hospitals, sometimes even to the best of the abilities of our nursing colleagues and our junior colleagues as well as the senior consultants, becomes difficult. Like, for example, I was just doing this webinar. I had 3 knocks on my door and there were 2 police people and 1 resident doctor standing, and they were wanting to discuss some baby with me who wanted to be shifted from Palwal. Now, empathetically, if you look at it, I had the option of just, letting go of this webinar, going out and talking to them, which I did. And the second option was that I could just stop and tell them that I'm doing a webinar and please don't disturb me, just go away from here. So this is one empathy part. The second part regarding empathy is that it is individual's choice, balancing, and it is prior sensitization. So we would like to know, ma'am, from your session, how in the busy tertiary care settings of public sector hospitals with no formal curriculum of empathy, how can my nurses, my young medical students and my young nursing students can inculcate the habit of empathy, make it into a practice, and so that others are led by their example?
Yeah. So, Rekha ma'am, you wanted to say something? You have raised your hand. Yes, Rekha ma'am, please unmute yourself.
Yeah, I'm unmuting her, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon to everyone. Basically, I just want to raise a issue. Most of our young nurses are prefer to go for the teaching sector without taking experience in the clinicals. So if they are just trying to work 5 or 10 years in the clinicals, and then go for the teaching, it will definitely help them to basically establish a meaning, what empathy exactly, what it is.
Thank you. Thank you, Rekha ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Anyone else, what are the practical difficulties nurses are facing to practice empathy into their day-to-day practices?
We can ask, I think, our young colleagues. Khushbu, can you go ahead and tell us? Like, you've been an intern right now practicing whatever you learned in the undergrad period. Chabhi, Khushbu, anybody? You are two young medical students. So how difficult or how conducive do you think the current setup is to practice empathy?
I believe, sir, because of a massive patient load and a very low doctor-patient ratio, we tend to forget. We have a lot of work and we get frustrated, and then we were not able to deliver what is optimum. And we do want to be empathetic, but at times we just lack it because of the inner frustration and a massive load of work. And I believe that it is an inner's choice, one's choice to not indulge in that frustration and look beyond it and deliver the optimum compassion and emotional quotient towards the patient. But sometimes we do lack due to the massive patient load, uh, due to our not that we do not have the pre-sensitization towards empathy. We do not have a curriculum that says that this should be your approach.
Thank you, Khushbu, for sharing. I think
Gina wants to ask something. Yeah, Gina, please go ahead. You are mute, Gina. एक बार unmute कर लो, please.
Okay, sir. Actually, while we are taking care of calls in my mobile, all this eye contact will be lost. I will be more, if I don't have empathy, I will be more interested in taking calls and attend to those issues. So empathy is lost in body language, eye contact, and every aspect. So this is one common scenario I would like to.
Yes, thank you, Gina. So I think, so here I have defined the word empathy, and this is, on the point of view from the communication. So these are two components, which is very, very important in, nursing practices that, while doing communication, like you have to have good communication skills and listening actively or authentically. So while making any kind of communication or interaction with the patients, you have to keep in mind, the word empathy, making eye contact, your muscles of, facial expression, your posture should be right. So it should give a correct message to the patient that you are open to, hear their problems. And tone of voice, because we say in communication that, only 10% is by word, 40% by your expression and 50% by your non-verbal gesture. So communication is very, very important, no matter what you are doing in nursing practice or in nursing professional. Okay, so why empathy matters? So what are the, most crucial time, any specific time when nurses feel that they are failed to practice empathy? So when you feel the most pressurized, then you cannot practice empathy with your patients or with your colleagues. So any example, anyone would like to tell me? So when you feel that you are not able to, or you are more pressurized to practice empathy with your patients or with your colleagues?
Can I try?
Yeah, please
If
try.
I'm in the midst of doing a particular...
Yeah, please go ahead, Sister Susie.
If I'm trying to do a particular procedure for my patient and another patient relative comes to ask me for a particular need of his, I may not be able to at that time empathize with that person or even give an ear to that person's problem as a nurse.
Right. Thank you. What else? Anyone else would like to share their experience that what are the most pressurized movement or situation, I would say, when they feel that they are unable to practice empathy, even though they want to, but they cannot? Yes, Khushbu, please.
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah.
First of all, thank you so much for this opportunity to discuss a very important component of healthcare practice. And I feel as an intern and as worked, having worked in a tertiary care hospital, definitely a lack of lack of protocol to approach every patient in any situation, and a proper training and a proper practice session whereby we've emphasized on the fact that empathy is something that will not that has to be trained into you and has to be practiced consciously when we're dealing with patients. And yes, there are going to be challenges as because the patient load is very high, the workload is very high, and a lot of things have to be done in a very short span of time. And I think it is very important to have an empathetic the entire infrastructure of healthcare should be something that should be focused and should be based out of empathy, and it should help us it should be facilitating that we are able to practice empathy. And I think that is one of the major setbacks for us to practice empathy at a practical level.
Thank you, Khushbu. My another question is like, do all the nurses aware, about the deeper feeling of empathy? Do all the nurses have the feeling of empathy that they would wanted to practice with their patients, apart from the factors which are influencing? Do all nurses are aware about that they do have a feeling of empathy?
I think it varies in percentage, but some amount of percentage of empathy is there, but they may not be conscious about empathy.
Right. So this is my question. So that's why I'm saying that, having the deeper awareness of your own feelings, so it's very, very important. The nurse should ask questions from themselves that whether do I have this feeling of empathy, or whether I'm practicing or not. If they do have, so then why they are not practicing. So why is empathy in nursing important? We have already all discussed, because empathy helps to build a rapport, a good relationship with our patient. We can connect, more with them, and we can focus on the whole person, of their whole problems. And also it strengthens the communication between the patient and nurse, because nurses can understand the more of their patient's problem, and then they can think about how they are going to help them. So here the nurse acronym is, how the nurse can demonstrate empathy to their patients. So here I have defined name or mirror of the emotion, understand the emotion, what patient is going through, and respect the patient. This is very important, when we decide to become a nurse, we have to have a compassion, dedication, empathy, to work in this field. And I'm sure that most of the nurses have these qualities. and support the patient using powerful words and explore the emotion further. Like, for example, if somebody is telling you, you know, I am going through this problem for the last so many years, and nobody in the family is, taking care of me, or, concerning about my problems. So you need to explore. If patient is explaining or, sharing his or her problem, then you need to explore more and more that what is the reason behind it, why the person is saying like that. And then you can make your care plan and you can try and help the patient. So here some of the statement, nurses' statement for articulating empathy. Like, you can understand the emotion, naming the emotion. Like, it sounds like you are frustrated, so you are naming the emotion that somebody is feeling frustrated. Understanding, example of understanding is like, this help me understand what you are thinking. When someone is sharing their problems, any patient is sharing their problems with you, then you have to understand. So it gives them a clear, view that you are understanding by nodding your head, by making some sounds like, yes, you are listening to them. And respect, no matter, because sometimes we tend to forget that the person who has come as a patient is a human being. So we just see the person as a patient. We don't see person as a human being. So we should understand, maintaining respect throughout the patient journey. We don't know how many times the patient is there in the institution, so we should respect. So how you can show your respect towards the patient? When you are hearing, when you are taking their history, you can say that, I can see you really have been trying to follow our instruction, whatever you are saying. So it means you are respecting, you are giving them a respect by understanding. And supporting, you always say, like, in palliative care, we always say that we are always there for you. No matter what happens, our support is always there. So types of empathy, here I have defined cognitive empathy, emotional empathy, and compassionate. So cognitive empathy is like understanding someone's thoughts and emotions in a very rational rather than emotional sense. Empathy does not mean that you get just emotional and you just forget about the patient problem, and you're not trying to understand the meaning of that person, what he or she is trying to say. So getting emotional and doing nothing is not empathy at all. Understanding them, listen to them, try to understand the meaning, and try and help the patient. Emotional empathy is like also known as emotional contagion, and it's catching someone else's feeling so that you literally feel them too. Because we always say that I am with you. Okay, I can understand your feeling is sympathy. But when you say that I am there for you, I am with you, that is empathy. Compassionate, that whatever you hear, from their history or whatever they are sharing with you, then you try and think that how you can help. Like, for example, if somebody has come with the severe with the history of severe pain, so the compassionate nurse would think about how she can help to reduce the pain, to help the patient to relieve his or her pain first. If you look at the spectrum of empathy, sometimes we do forget, practicing empathy, but we go with sympathy, or we feel very pity. Like, for example, if somebody comes, like any accidental case come, in the hospital, and nurse has to attend. So she'll feel, pity or be sympathized with the patient, rather than having empathetic feeling. So any example, anyone would like to give example of sympathy, or how do you, define sympathy and empathy in your daily practices? So do you often tend into the both modes, like you get, sympathetic and feel pity on the patients, and you try to be empathetic or more compassionate with your patients? So anyone can share their experience, can tell me the difference between sympathy and empathy. Anyone? Look, please try and participate, because it shouldn't be a, giving lecture only, because I am not very happy of giving lecture. Because I like participants to participate more, because we have, I'm sure that we have many example of, having sympathetic words with our patients or statement with our patients, because in palliative care also sometimes we do, but that is unintentionally. We don't intend to do that, but we do it. Like somebody is having a very big wound, we say, oh my God, I feel so sorry for that person. I'm feeling so sorry for you. So is it empathetic statement of mine? If I'm seeing any patient and with a big wound, then I'm saying, oh my God, bichara, bichari, having so much problem. Yes.
That looks like a pity, or at the most extended lower version of sympathy.
Right. Right.
Of course, not empathy. Empathy would be to, put yourselves into the shoes of the patient or the person who's suffering.
Yes.
And then, try and, feel that the pain and the agony or the feelings which he's feeling, and then, vocalize them, saying that I can feel how you feel, and or I can, understand how you feel when you're having this problem. And then later on, trying and acting in to do the best of one's ability to fix it, whatever.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Datta. Yes, Khushbu, you has raised your hand, and then Dr. Praveen.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, I feel that a sympathetic feeling is something that we can have at a basal level when the patient approaches us, unless there are other situations when the burden is very high. But I think empathy in a way also comes when, while doing our ward rounds, there are patients, chronic patients, intubated patients on who have been catheterized, and month long the catheter has been there, and while being given all the work, and since even if that's not mentioned to us, if we are feeling for the patient and we realize that since it's a chronic condition and we need to take care of that, and changing it appropriately on time, and making sure that that hygiene is maintained, and making sure that the bed sheets are they're basically dry and they're not wet. And I think these are the little advances that if it strikes us, this means that we have been empathetic to them and we're able to feel what they are feeling in that condition.
Yeah, thank you, Khushbu. Yes, Dr. Praveen, you were saying something.
Yeah, thank you. Essentially, we're talking about emotions, and emotions are very close to the heart of the individuals. And if we think about that, no two emotions we can express at a time. So empathy is one emotion, and stress is another emotion. We're talking about people who are working in a stressful environment.
Yes.
Unless you remove the stress, you can't expect them to show empathy. Fundamentally, that is something we'll have to see what strategies we have to employ to reduce the stress so that the empathy comes in. So that's in a bigger picture is what I think. Coming to the specific question now about the examples, I was just trying to think about, let's say, a child, and I need to cannulate. Now the child is very concerned when you go there. So the empathy is about understanding the emotion of the person, communicating that understanding, and then acting on that. So three elements of that is there. So either a child or adult, you go for a cannulation and you observe the facial kind of expressions or clinging on to their relatives or something like that, right? And you ask, like, what is bothering you at this point of time? They might say that, look, I'm very scared of the needles. Last time I had a bad experience or whatever. Now, sympathy or pity is that, oh my God, what happened? Like, it's awful. Pricking is such painful. I also, I'm scared of that or whatever. Like, going really into the emotion, you become emotional about it. That's not what is empathy. Empathy is more of a, oh yes, I do understand that you had a bad experience before. Why don't we try to kind of reduce this time? So we develop having the strategies of, okay, may I use some pain relief for you this time? Can we try that? So that is again exploring that, right? So they might say, okay, let me try this time. I'm simplifying it. It could be longer process, and then you're trying to employ that by sitting there side, having that eye contact, easing their tensions and doing the work, because at the end of the day, we are professionals, we have to do the work, but we cannot become emotional about it. The decisions based on the emotions might go wrong. Hence, we have to feel from the point of view of the patient, but not become emotional about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Praveen. Somebody else, I think Dr. Anupa was saying something.
Yes, good afternoon. Actually, I will continue from where Dr. Venkatgiri left, that empathy very important. I think to hear out the patient and, try and behave or do stuff the way we would want to be treated if we were patients. And I think wanting to be heard, not only the patient, but I think, all the caregivers around also. It's not so much only the patient going through a bad time or a rough phase. I think it is very important for the relatives also to be heard out, or the caregivers who are looking after the patient. They form an important part of the treatment process. And at the same time, I do agree with Dr. Venkatgiri that, we have to do our job, and our job will be made easier not only by just empathizing with them, but opening a communication channel and empowering them, not to come out of whatever state they are in, and take a step forward towards their treatment. Sometimes what happens is that if you show sympathy or you empathize with a patient, it is a downhill process.
Right.
It gets, it gets the motivation down. So we have to exactly know the aspect of empowering them also to come out of their fears and come out of that low life state, and go ahead with the treatment process.
Thank you. Yes, Rekha, ma'am, you were saying something?
Yeah. Thank you, Savita.
Yeah.
Basically, I just want to add that if people are saying that nurses are going to be very empathetic these days, and we have to find out what are the reasons which make them so towards this so empathetic. There can be lots of contributing factors which might be forced our nurses to not respond in a proper manner, on timely manner. So we have to rule out those basically reasons and problems basically behind that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rekha, ma'am. Anyone else? Somebody else has raised their hand?
I think Shavi is there, ma'am. Shavi.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, ma'am, I believe that sympathy refers to the ability to take part in someone else's feeling, like feeling sorrowful about their misfortune. But empathy is a term that the ability to understand other people's feelings as if we are having them ourselves. It's like if we are the patient. So that as Anuva ma'am or Rekha ma'am rightly said, it would be as if we were the patient ourselves.
Yes.
And whenever they have a bad time, like if a person is wounded, it would be one thing. One person would be like, I'm sorry you are wounded. But as a doctor, as a healthcare professional, our role is to support them. Yes, you are wounded, but you can get healed. And this is how we're gonna get better. We have to empower them.
Right. Thank you so much. Yes, someone else has raised their hand.
I would like to add to it that most of the human beings or patients, they wouldn't like to be pitied or
Right.
sympathized with.
Right.
But I think when we empathize with our patients, they feel that they are at the decision-making end and they feel empowered, and they will be more when we sort of tell them about the treatment modalities, they will be more accepting the treatment modalities because they are given the decision-making authority in their hands.
Right. Thank you so much. So empathy is all about putting yourself into other situation and think You know, if your loved ones or you would have, you know, been into his or her place, how would you react, or how would you help, or how would you think about this patient to help? I have a little story to tell you about, you know, example of being pity or sympathy, or, you know, how we turn sympathy into, you know, empathy. We had one case, like 15 years old boy who was having osteosarcoma, and he was amputated in AIIMS hospital. So when he was referred from AIIMS to our cancer support team for home-based care, for palliative care, so our team went and, you know, we like did 2 or 3 visit, and boy, he never speak to the, you know, to our team. Our team greet him, ask him, how are you feeling? And he said, I'm fine. Not, you know, more than that. And the family was interacting. So in the second visit, when nurse, you know, went and sit, nurse and counselor went and sit next to him, and they just touch him, you know, and ask him, how are you feeling? So then he started talking about, you know, that when I was in the hospital and I got this cancer and my leg was amputated, everybody was feeling pity on me, which I didn't like at all. I was so angry, I was so frustrated. That's why I didn't talk to you guys. But you people are different. You never, you know, show any pityness, or you never been sympathize on me. You gave me a equal, you know, respect, and you motivated me to talk to you guys or share my problems. Then he started talking to the team, and he shared all these problems, and he said that, you know, I wanted to do something, but I never want anyone to feel pity on me. You know, no matter what I'm going through, you know, or whatever has happened with me, doesn't matter, but I still want to be okay and live my life again. Okay, so this is a small example of, you know, practice empathy. So it's not just in the hospital happening, but we also do face the similar situation while we care patients at home. Sorry. So we should always remember the, you know, primary role of nurses, what nurses are doing. What is, no matter where you work in community setting, you work in home setting, you work in a hospital, you work in hospice, the role of nurses are same, more or less is same. Okay, so like what all we do, we, you know, keep all the medical history, whatever you know, symptoms patient is having. We then try and collaborate with other you know, team members, how we can help this you know, patient, advocate for the, on behalf of the patient. If patient is saying something and family is not able to you know, hear or fulfill that wish, so we being nurses, you know, advocate on behalf of the patient, because this happens a lot in our home care setting. Like when I just give you a small example on advocacy, one of our patient having CA tongue, and half his tongue was, you know, just got this thing because of the cancer. So he was not able to talk, but he used to talk in, you know, like by expressions, or sometimes he used to write. So we used to tell him, like, you can express your feeling. And then we has to go very close to him to hear what he's saying actually. So it wasn't a big problem. One day we just went to his home and asked him, how are you? And we just sat next to him. And the thing is, like, whenever we used to go, he said, like, I wanted to have tea with you guys. And he was always angry and with his wife, even though she was doing everything. But the small thing was, like, she was giving him food and going upstairs. Like, they have a small room, one room set. So the patient was on the ground floor, and the wife and his 2 sons and daughter-in-laws, they were on the upper and second or third and fourth floor. So the wife used to, you know, give him, you know, bring the food down, give him, and then she used to go up. And she used to have, you know, her food with the son and daughter-in-law. So the patient was very, you know, irritated that she's giving me food, but in a very big quantity. So no matter the food was from his choice, but still he used to get irritated. He didn't want to eat that. And he didn't have courage to tell his wife, because she will get angry because that I'm doing everything 24/7 care for him, and still he's complaining. So he said, ma'am, can I say something? I wanted to say something. And his wife was, she used to complain to us that I am giving him everything by asking his choice that what you want to have today, but still he's not eating. So you please ask him that what is the reason why he don't want to eat. So then we asked him like, and then he said, ma'am, this is the problem. First of all, that I am alone, and she just goes up and she's not sitting with me and putting the food in a big quantity. So when I see that food, I get irritated. I don't want to eat, even though it's my favorite food, but still I don't want to eat. So then we have to tell this small thing to his wife without, maintaining the confidentiality, and without, having this statement, then they would have a fight with each other later on when we are not there. So we tell his wife, we said, where do you have your lunch and what all you do and how much time you spend with him. So then she told us, and we just told her that, it will be good if you can just sit with him and always give food into a small quantity, right? And covered with another plate. So how, how much he wants to have, he can have it. So then she said, okay, fine. So the problem was solved, right? So we have to keep in mind, maintaining confidentiality. Whatever patient is saying, the patient problem or concern, we should convey to a doctor or to our, caregivers. So we have to, this is all the nurse's role. And when you when you talk about palliative care, it's become more essential. Even in the hospital, when patient is saying something to the nurse, that he cannot say to the doctor directly. Maybe like, for example, if patient is having any problem with the medication he or she is being prescribed by the doctor. So this is the nurse's job. You have to ask, the patient what problem you are going through and how did it occur, when did it started, and then you can tell to the doctor on behalf of your patients. So monitoring patients, this is all we are doing, no matter where we are working, and education of the patient, because this point I want to emphasize more, because no matter whether patient is in the hospital or in home setting or in community, because you are not there. Suppose like patient is get cure and then he goes back to the hospital, and of course our nurses are doing, I'm sure. But then we need to educate the patients and caregiver about taking medication, or if there is any dressing, or if there is any tube change. So then you can tell the patient and educate the patients and caregivers, so then they can have it at home. So provide constant support and advise, empower, motivate to your patients is more and more important. And this is the main role of the nurse wherever you work. So here are some example of, I have put it here, of perfect example of education, motivation, empowering your patients. This is the picture of our patients, in palliative care, in home-based palliative care. So we come to the, patient's level. We come to the patient's level. We really come down, and then we see like what problem the person is going through, and then we try and see that how we can help. We just don't leave, their problem that, like, for example, if we are not able to help somebody with the, rehabilitation, so then we try and connect with other NGO or with other organization who can help our patients. So we go beyond our role and we try and help our patients whatever way we can help, and we try and solve their problems. So qualities of a good nurse, first of all, like, of course, we have this caring nature, and that's why we have decided, touch therapy really, really works. No matter you are, even though if you're not doing anything, your presence, your therapeutic presence and your touch can really make a lot of difference. Like, for example, I have seen this from my eyes, in the hospital also. I have worked in hospital also. So I have seen, sometime because of our own frustration, because of our own problem, like somebody, like, for example, if we have fought, in the morning with our husband, or with, we got upset with our son or daughter, we are keeping all those frustration feeling with us, and, then throwing tantrum onto our patients, which is not good at all. No matter how, frustrated, how stressed, or how tense you are, you have to make balance between professional relationship and your personal problem. Keep away your personal problem, when you're dealing with patients. So because they are already in problem, that's why they are come to the hospital, they are come to you. If you are just unnecessary yelling at them, okay, it's not good. You are harming them in a very bad way, because I have seen unnecessary, sometimes we just yell to the patient, can't you see that I am busy with this patient, sit down there. So don't raise your voice. There is no need to raise your voice. You can say that word nicely. Can you please wait for 2 minutes? Let me attend this patient and then I'll attend to you. If somebody is in more emergency than the other patient, of course, we will prioritize that patient accordingly. So having therapeutic communication techniques, it really, really work hard. I remember, 20 years ago when I started working, and then because we also, haven't gone through all this lecture in our, nursing training time. So, but I started doing voluntary in an NGO, even though I was working in a hospital. So whenever I used to have time, according to my shift, I used to go and volunteer, to that NGO, just to learn all these skills. And I have learned, so therapeutic communication really works, because no matter if patient is yelling, crying because of pain, but your touch, your therapeutic touch and your communication skills can really calm down the patient without giving adding any medication. So the 50% of the problem will be vanished without you starting your treatment. So it's really important that you have to have therapeutic presence, your touch, because remember, patients and caregiver, they do, observe each and everything about. Because I can tell you one example. We had, our doctor, one of our doctors, she was in palliative care with us. So we went to see one patient with CA rectum. And the doctor's father wasn't well, and still she came, to work, and we went for the visit, and she was just talking to the patient, and how are you, auntie, and how are you feeling, like that. And all of a sudden, because of some statement, she started crying. When the patient asked, how are you feeling? Is everything fine in your family? And then she started crying loudly. And we were also so amazed that what happened, like why she's crying. So then the patient asked the doctor, what happened? Why are you crying? Then she said, my father is not well. So sometime, like we also are human being, but still, we can, if we have any problem, we can discuss among our colleagues, because until unless you share, nobody is going to help you. No matter where you work, in hospital, in community, you have to share. If you have any personal, problem, so whoever you trust more, whether your colleague, your friend outside your work, you can share. Okay. So if you share your feeling, your pain with others, there will be some solution. If you are not able to take out solution for your problem, somebody else can be a solution for your problems. So, remember that you have to be very, very empathetic, and whatever, just concentrate what patient is saying. All right. Do not interrupt, because we practice this in palliative care, that we give the patient, our focus is of course patient, and our approach is family oriented. So we listen and listen and listen more to the patient, what he or she is saying, and then we try and think that how we can help this patient. So the nurse should have all these qualities, and we have these qualities. Only thing is, like, we sometimes forget how to apply all these qualities towards our patients. So their, care could be more improved. And this is our aim, to achieve the best and possible quality of care for the patient, no matter where you worked. And remember, be non-judgmental. Don't jump on any conclusion. Oh my God, this patient is always complaining. Why? Who are you to judge about his or her pain, or about the problem he or she is sharing? They may have some problem. That's what they are, sharing with you. That's why they are complaining that I'm having pain. So we cannot say, I gave you medicine yesterday and still you are complaining about pain. So think about all the possible way, whether the person is going through only physical pain. They might have psychological pain, they might have social or financial pain. So think a person as a whole person and think about all the problems, because I have seen and I've noticed, because when even I was working in the hospital, I used to only think about the physical problem of the patient. I never used to think about he or she is going through some psychological or social problems. So think about all the possible ways. All right. So here,
Could I, ma'am, could I stop you for a while?
Two people are talking.
That is, Dr. Baswal has
Yeah.
asked you to actually elaborate on therapeutic communication.
Right. Okay. Okay. Thank you so much. So I gave you example, like I'll show you one picture also, after 2-3 slides. It's a very good example of therapeutic presence. Here, see, so you can see this picture. As I have said, that it's not necessary always that you do some intervention with your patient. If somebody is in a distress or they are into extreme problem, you being a nurse, you just go there, touch them or just be there with them. It can make a really big difference. All right. So half of the problem will go away without you initiate your interventions. So this is actually we are practicing into palliative care. And I can say that, palliative care, in palliative care, we focus more on empathy and compassion. So this is a perfect example of, of your therapeutic presence, how the therapeutic presence can make a difference. Yes, somebody has raised their hand. Gina, yeah.
By mistake, ma'am. Carry on.
Anupa wants to ask something. Anupa wants to share an example. Anupa, please go ahead.
I wanted to share an example, in the times when we were getting trained as specialists. It's a humorous example. We used to spend a lot of time in the wards as resident doctors. Perpetually, we used to be, living in the wards with so many patients and so much to do. Pre-op, post-op, dressings, BPs, and the strength of the ward used to be anywhere close to 60. And every time we examined a patient and went on rounds and took the history, the patients would tell us, they would communicate with us, but we always had a grudge that when our boss used to come on rounds, he would barely spend 1/10 the time that we would spend with the patients, but the patients would come out with 10 times more details and sharing with the boss. And young days, so we used to always think, probably he has white hair and he looks older. That is why patients feel like sharing with him and not with us. But as time went by and we observed him closely, and what we learned from him was something which is being taught today in this, or which is being shared today in this platform, on this platform. Whenever he used to come and he used to stand at the bedside of the patient, two things which he did, and we learned only with time, was that once he looked at the patient eye to eye, full attention, not getting distracted. And the second, he would always keep his hand on the shoulder of the patient and maybe just ask her one question, which used to be, how are you today? And the rest of the talking would be done by the patient. So that is what you are helping us to do today, to reiterate the fact, that physical communication with patients is very important. I thought I should share this. This is something which I learned from my teacher, my guide.
Yes. So thank you very much. And this is exactly what we are practicing. So therapeutic presence, therapeutic communication techniques are really important, that you really come down to the patient level. Allow them to talk, ask open-ended questions, make eye contact, and make sure that you are not attending your phone in between when you're talking to the patient, and then you are talking, okay, so it'll, they will distract, and the whole your conversation will be, destroyed. So it's important in our, palliative care setting, we tell our nurses, do not attend your personal call when you're going for home visit until unless it's important, especially when you are talking to the patient, and for counselors, especially when they are counseling to the patient. So it's important. So practice. So main two qualities the nurse should have: communication, therapeutic communication technique, and the listening. It's more important. The more you listen, you can help more to your patients. I think time is less, so that I should go ahead. Barriers to practice empathy. I'm sure we have all discussed, what are the barriers. So anyone would like to, share about an example of organizational factors which is influencing nursing empathetic practice? Anyone? Quickly, because we have less time and I wanted to share some more slides with you. Yes, Khushbu.
Ma'am, I think one of the biggest barriers in practicing empathy in a healthcare setting is the lack of communication between the healthcare practitioners and the nursing staff as well as the factor of hierarchy that comes into play. And I think because of these interpersonal, this lack of interpersonal communication, we are not able to deliver our best to the patient care. And we have to remind ourselves that at the end of the day, it is the patient who is the center of our practice.
Right.
And I think that is one thing that we should be taught to work upon at a more junior level from undergrad as well.
Right. Thank you, Khushbu. So we have already talked about.
One more thing, Dr. Baswal is also saying, could you please elaborate on the word SOLER, on the acronym SOLER? SOLER.
Okay. So like we have already talked about, somebody has already talked about that you sit, face the client, observe the, observe an open posture. You shouldn't be, like that, sitting like this, okay? Your posture should be correct when you are sitting and talking to the patient. Lean towards the client, and establish environment, more relaxed environment you should provide so that patient can be open to talk. Right. So we have discussed, what are the barriers. I know that there are barriers, for nurses, so they are unable to practice, empathy, even though they wanted to. There are some organizational factors, they can be burnout because of that. When they don't get support, they don't get proper facilities, to help their patient. And sometimes they're emotionally exhausted, or maybe salary could be the reason, the salaries are not appropriate. And yes, somebody has raised hand, would like to talk on this slide. Yeah, 2 people has raised hand. Khushbu. Yes, Khushbu.
I think that was by mistake. Kindly continue.
Okay, by mistake. And there was someone else who was raising their hand.
Yes, ma'am, I would just like to add, you just showed a slide with the old woman being embraced and being and the healthcare personnel expressing the therapeutic caring techniques. I believe that patients we may not remember us dealing with the patients, but the patient always remember how we dealt with them, whether it was with compassion, whether it was we were nice to them or not.
Yes, very important. I just tell you small example of, on this. That's what I said, that without having any conversation, your therapeutic presence, the way you are presenting yourself in front of the patient, your first impression is the last impression. It's very, very important. And I have, heard many at times from our patients, when they are, because most patients, they are getting treatment from the government hospital. And they always say that most nurses are very, very rude. They yell, at them, without having any this thing. And they have went from the morning, wait till 4 or 5 in the evening to the hospital, and still they are sent back without seeing the doctor. So remember, whatever problem, whatever barriers you are having, but still try not to harm your patients, because they are already into a lot of pain, lot of stress, physical, psychosocial, financial suffering, and they have come to you. So your job is to make them comfortable, to help them, because that's why they are there. They have come to you. So remember, your words can really make a difference. So that's why communication for nurses is really important. you just sit or stand, whatever, the environmental is, I mean, according to the place you have been provided, you can still do. I can tell you that we have patients in slums, Juggi, where in a small 8x8, Juggi, around 15 or 20 people are living, but still we try and make sure to, talk to the patient, and so that we will not, hurt their feeling anymore. So this is very, very important. You can still make out some solution, no matter how much problem you are having, but you can still have some solution to help your patients. And be nice, at least talk to them nicely. This is important, right? If you cannot help them, you have no right to harm, right? So try and remember, be polite, be compassionate, be empathetic, and try and help your patients. So how patients view empathy, as I have said, because they come into the pain, they come with a lot of suffering. So they are just, looking at you. They are just, dependent on you, that what will you do to them to help, all right? And to how you can, decrease their problem and how you can help. So for patients, empathy is really, really powerful because it changes their experience. As I've just gave you example, if you are hard, if you are rude, if you are harsh on them, you are just yelling them unnecessary. So what impression it will give? They'll say, oh my God, this person is very, very rude. This doctor and this nurse is very rude. All right. So remember, how patients view empathy and how they think about you and what they want from you. So they want
Ma'am, can you put your
transparency.
slides on slideshow mode, please?
They want transparency and clarity, more clarity. So whatever you are explaining them, talk to them, explain them in a nice way, so then they can understand and they can also participate into their own care.
Ma'am, could you please put your slides on slideshow mode?
Oh, sorry. I was showing the picture and then, oh goodness. All right. So this we have already talked about, perfect example of this thing. So what, the problems, what all problems patient can have, there are main 4 problems: physical, psychological, social, and spiritual. So we should look patient as a whole, all right? So we should provide a holistic care in which we just not think about only the physical problem, but we look after the other aspects of the patient problems. So how can patients benefit by, by practicing empathy? So the benefit of incorporating empathy into your nursing practice it can really improve the patient outcomes and boost their satisfaction, or, more effective communication and higher rates of patient compliance. So whatever you will tell them, they will listen to you. So this is another example of higher satisfaction and how they will listen to you. So how to show empathy to patients? So I have given some example. We have already talked about empathetic communication, that you have to come down to the patient level, make eye-to-eye contact, your posture should be right, no phone attending in between, okay, just focus on your patient, active listening, listen to them, what they are saying, and be aware of your body language, focused observation of patient verbal and non-verbal cues, because most of the communication is on the basis of verbal and non-verbal, and on the basis on your expressions. Only 10% communication is by words. So remember, how you are presenting yourself in front of the client. Reflect what the patients were communicating. You can ask them back that what I understand that you have said this. Is this correct? Or I have missed out something. So then they will say if you have missed out something in listening. Empathize with the patient and provide assistance, information, and encouragement is very, very important. Always empower them, encourage them that no, you can do this, you can do this. And this is very, very important. And record each and every small detail what patient is saying, and reassure always, because this we practice in palliative care, and show constant support. We always say that something can always be done. Like, for example, when cancer patients, they go to the hospital and they are not into curative phase anymore. So then doctor tell them ki ab ilaj nahi ho sakta, go back to home. Okay, so but we in palliative care, we never say that nothing can happen. there is always something can happen, like you can do symptom management, you can talk to the patient, right? So this is the slide. I have put it blank here, and I just wanted to ask you people that how can nurses improve their empathetic skills? So what all can be done to improve the nurses' empathetic skills? Because we have talked about, the problems. Now the solution. So what is the solution? What, can help nurses to practice empathy? Yes, anyone, quickly. Anyone wants to say?
I want to add by improving their listening skills.
Okay.
Sometimes a nurse may be busy,
Yeah.
but she could always tell her client that, could you please wait for a second? Or if she can, instead of even saying that wait for a second, if she can solve the problem of the patient, she should be able to solve it immediately. Maybe give a listening ear to
Okay,
what
so you said listening, listening,
has to
by
say.
listening, they can improve their empathetic skills. What else?
May I?
Yeah.
Every nurse, wherever joining in the profession, should work in a critical area at least for 4 to 5 years. So that we can make sensitize them. Okay, what is the way to deal with the serious clients or serious patients? They will learn over there, and which can be utilized in their later life.
Okay, thank you, Rekha. And do you think that how organization can help? Because we have talked about all the problems and there is no support from, organization, nurses are, under a lot of stress. So how organization structure can help nurses to practice empathy?
So with the organization means what? There are different organizations like private and government. There is a huge difference between private and government sector,
especially
as you know, all know.
Institutional care,
And directly or indirectly, it's also hampered the nursing care also. Like for example, those who work in the policy, which hardly work in the clinicals, and their work in the clinicals, they hardly intervene in the administration. So there should be some provision where the nurses working in the clinicals should come back into policy making. Then only they will come to know what is the problem actually they are facing on the front, on the bedside.
Okay.
So it's a very big gap. The person who have a authority, but don't have a power.
Right.
They know the experience, but they don't have voice raise.
You mean that, whatever policies are being made, a nurse should, especially for nurses, so nurse should be a part of it, right?
Yeah. For example, if you're in the ministry, for example, then the nurses are bound for the skills, right? And the nurses who are having higher skill in the nursing profession, like the academician, they are able to touch that level. Okay. Although they are having very less experience in clinical sites. And the person who are working in the clinicals, after working 30 or 25 years, he or she is not able to give her or his opinion in policy making. So without getting a clinical, without knowing the clinical problems, how a person sitting in the ministry can make a good, you can say, policies for the clinical nurses and their environment.
Right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Rekha ma'am.
And thank you, Rekha. That was a very important point that you brought forward.
Yes. Very important point.
Savita?
Yes.
Hello.
Yes, Dr. Mohan.
Prioritizing patient will also go a long way in giving empathetic care to those patients. There's a lot of rush of patients and then people get bogged down. If we are able to prioritize our patient early stage, probably we can look after them better in a more empathetic way. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Dr. Mohan. And also, just wanted to say, I don't think so that there is a, any chapter in nursing curriculum, nursing education, that nursing are being taught on any lecture on empathy or compassion. Is there?
Yes, ma'am, it is there. They have a subject called communication skills, in which we touch about therapeutic communication and empathy.
All right. Thank you. So I think what else we can do, for nurses to improve? Yes, Dr. Praveen.
I'm sorry, I might sound a little controversial here, but maybe we'll have to start looking, having empathy about the nurses themselves first. You know, what I'm talking about is the busy public sectors where we go for mentoring and all, right? We can give lot of SOPs to them, lot of training to them, but on the ground to deliver that, it's extremely difficult, right?
Right.
So our leaders, at least once in 6 months, working like the frontline worker, would they understand what the others are going through? Would that help them to create some kind of a structure which will help nurses to? It's not about knowing, right? I mean, like just now as you were saying that it might be in the curriculum of what is the empathy. It's about the implementation. That's exactly what NQCN is always working towards, right? Implementation is always the challenge. So I still think this is also a leadership issue. And on ground issues have to be dealt by the leaders.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Praveen. Because I just wanted to say here that, you know, we Indians are very good in putting all the policies into paper. But when it's come to the implementation, it's always, you know, hard, and there are a lot of gaps to, you know, anything being implemented on the real ground. So, you know, if you can, as ma'am said, that there is already chapter on this, the communication, which covers empathy and compassion. Good. But, you know, what else we can do? Like, I mean, who is going to help with the implementation part for the nurses to practice, you know, their actual and you know, the actually empathy skills. And also I feel somehow, you know, the actual nursing essence is getting vanished. Yeah.
So I would, I would just like to add here, Savita ma'am, that it, like Praveen very rightly said, it depends a lot about leadership. We are very privileged to have with us here former Joint Commissioner, Maternal Health, Government of India, Dr. Baswal sir. And as we all know, he has formulated the Lakshya program, that is the Labor Room Quality Improvement Initiative. And into the Lakshya program, we have the respectful maternal care. And also with his blessings, we could manage to get the respectful neonatal care also added into the component of the Lakshya program. Very important, both these components are a component of empathy. So very important, why Dr. Baswal could do it sitting at the ministry, because his hands, his ears always extended to the periphery. And I think the entire NQCN team would empathize with that fact and agree with that fact, that always the inputs for whatever policies were made in the ministry or still are being made in the ministry are directly from the feedbacks which are received by the clinical teams which are working in the periphery. That is one. So leadership is very, very important to provide the right environment for empathy to become a culture of the organization, policy making. And in my own neonatal ICU, when I go in the morning, and if I am not empathetic and I preach empathy to my teams, nobody is going to follow it. It comes from the top. It is not a bottom-up approach, it's a top-down approach. So the officers, the administrators, like Praveen and you said very rightly, has to seep into the government culture. It has to seep into the organizational culture for the nurses and the frontline workers to follow it, and everybody.
Right. Thank you, sir. So, you know, where are the gaps and how we can, you know, help. And, you know, whoever the leaders are, you know, or responsible leaders are for this, I think we should all have a meeting or something, you know, like, so that we can help the nurses and try and, you know, take the stress, you know, much stress they have, and because of that, they are not able to, and whatever factors are, you know, stopping them to practice empathy in their day-to-day nursing practices. Okay, so we should always remember, we have talked about there are policies, you know, in ethics, like we, being a nurse, we practice all this autonomy, justice, fidelity, because we keep in mind, or remember always and keep in mind that you are there to help the patient. Do not harm, do not make any harm to your patients if you cannot help also. And always try and be faithful, and whatever you are doing, explain to them and take their consideration also, and try and involve your patient into their own care. So they will also feel, be respectful, and they will participate into their own care. That's what we do in palliative care. Whatever patient is saying or family is saying, we ask them how you can help. Tell me. So if you are talking about this problem, that tell me how you can solve this problem. So we involve them into their own care, or so then they can be a solution for their own problem. And then the additional help can be always added by us. So these are the questions we, as healthcare, workers can ask ourselves, that what are the reason. We have talked about the factors which are influencing, nursing care, empathetic nursing care. That am I enough, compassionate to understand the other person feeling? Can I put myself into other person's shoes, so completely, so that I do not criticize or judge them, because we have, tendency to being very judgmental. We say, oh my God, this person is always crying, or this person is always complaining. So do not be judgmental. Do not, criticize other person. You just hear them and why they are saying. Just try and think on their level. Can I let myself enter into the other feelings and personal meanings to see these the way they do? Okay, so practicing empathy daily can help with any of the above questions you answered. So these are some examples I have put it here to show empathy, that how you can practice empathy into your day-to-day life, and forget about profession. This will help you to build your own relationship, right? So, this can improve your relations with your relatives, with your friends, with your colleagues, and of course into your profession. So these are some of the examples you can practice. So how palliative care can help, because in palliative care, we really practice empathy and compassion. We try and listen, patient more and more, and WHO has defined the term palliative care is an approach which can improve the quality of life of the patients and their families, facing problem associated with life-threatening illness. So through the prevention, we try and relieve their suffering, means of early identification, impeccable assessment, and treatment of pain and other problems of physical, psychosocial, and spiritual. Why I'm emphasizing on these other factors also, because not just physical problem, there are also psychosocial and spiritual problem patient may be going through. So you need to emphasize on that part also. So Dame Cicely Sonder, I am sure that you must have heard, her name. She was a nurse, who has started the first hospice in the world, which is called, modern this thing, which is London, which is in London, St. Christopher Hospice, and it was started by Dame Cicely Sonder. She was the founder of modern palliative care and hospice movement. She herself educated, from nurse to doctor, and she died of cancer at the end. So what CanSupport is doing, I am from CanSupport. CanSupport was started, with the own experience of our Vice President, Mrs. Tamala Gupta. She is a Hodgkin's lymphoma survivor for the last, 28 years. And she was in Canada at the time she got diagnosed, and because of her own experience, whatever she has gone through, psychosocial pain, spiritual issues, and physical problems, so she decided to come back to India and start this, program for the patients. So CanSupport believe that pain relief and palliative care are an integral part of healthcare. And of course, palliative care is really contributing a lot towards healthcare, improving the quality of life of the patients. It's all over the world. So palliative care is the upcoming field. And our mission vision is to enable people with advanced cancer and their families to make informed choices and decision. We never put our, decision onto them. We give them a path, we give them a lot of, options, and we tell them, we make them owner. You decide what you want to do. We never tell anybody, okay, you stop your chemotherapy if the patient is in the last stage and he or she is going through, chemo in the private hospital. We tell them, this is this, do's and don'ts, and then give them ownership to decide what they want to decide. So these are the problems why there is a need of, having palliative care, that, 10 lakh new cancer patients every year, and they suffer with lot of problems like pain, and there are, this thing, lot of big fungating wounds, and there are ostomies, and there are, delirium, lot of physical problem and emotional problems both patients and families go through, and of course poverty, and then the side effects of the treatment. So we see person as a whole, we see all his problems, whatever problems he is going through, whether physical or psychosocial. So solution is palliative care. We can even practice palliative care into hospital. It can be practiced anywhere with any patient. It's not for that only, that palliative care means only for end of life care patients. It's not that. You can practice this because like improving your communication skills, your listening skills can really help your patients. So it's a specialized branch of medicine which focused on providing relief from the symptoms and psychological stress of a serious illness to improve quality of life of the patient and family. Because of course our patient, our focus is patient, but our approach is always family oriented. And palliative care should be initiated at the time of diagnosis. It's not that when somebody is end up with the last stage, then it should be started. It should be started from the day one, where the patient is in a curable phase or he cannot get cured. And of course, multidisciplinary team approaches really works. And its same implies with you guys also who are working into hospital, into the institution, that you have a team. So always concern with other team member and try and help your patients. So the Cancer Support has been awarded with WHO Champion Award in 2017. She is the Harmala Gupta Kaur. She is a founder of our organization. So these are services. Anyone is feel free to, get connected with us if you would like to do any kind of voluntary and any kind of help you wanted to do to Cancer Support. You're free. So we have a daycare program, we have home-based care program. We have 31 teams at current in Delhi, NCR, Amritsar, Bhatinda, and Meerut. We have trained doctor, nurses, and counselor with us, and they go to the patient home to home and provide all the nursing care, medical care, counseling, psychosocial support. Right? We have 2 outpatient clinic, telephone helpline services. And patient go through a lot of financial problems, like if somebody is having any life-threatening disease like cancer, so they get financially exhausted. So we have a social worker with us who help the patient to get financial assistance through government schemes. Then we have peer support group, which is a group of patients who are being diagnosed with cancer. And then, of course, the training, education, and research department. We do a lot of training on palliative care, lot of training on communication for nurses and doctors and other social workers or paramedical staff. So you can, send any patient to us who require palliative care in these areas, Delhi and NCR. Our services is totally free of cost. We don't charge any single penny from the patient. But it's, depend on the patients, they can, donate if they want to. And from anywhere you can refer the patient. This is the helpline number given here. There is an email ID as well. We already have, a lot of good network with the government and private hospitals who are already referring patients to us. So you can also refer patients. And I would end with this slide. I love this, quote from Florence Nightingale, that nursing is an art, remember, and if it is so to be made an art, it requires as exclusive a devotion, as hard preparation as any painter's or sculptor's work. For what is the having to do with dead canvas or cold marble compared with having to do with the living body, the temple of God's spirits? It is one of the fine art. I had almost said the finesse of the fine arts. So this is really beautiful, which says that, we nurses have a lot of responsibility on us towards society. And then, it's not easy that anyone can do this nursing job. It's not easy task. So I can understand being, under stress, being a lot of, problems, there are gaps, still we try. and help our patients. So there are references I have given. A lot of research has been done that, after teaching nurses, on empathy, the quality of care really has been improved. Even with the doctors, the research has been done with the doctors also, so that if they are practicing empathy into their day-to-day practices, so the quality